My goodness. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Speaker MC show where it's all about relationships. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Marcia Chambers, and I am your host for the evening. If you're new to the show, let me give you some background information. We are 60 minutes of free-flowing, non-scripted conversation with me and two guests. Tonight, we have three, which makes it even more exciting. We explore a specific topic on three levels. Level one, what is the current relationship problem and how can we identify it? Level two, we break it apart and then we discover the real root of the issue. And then level three, we offer some solutions. Tonight, I just wanted to let you guys know that we have two fantastic ladies here. And let me just share the screen so that you could see the caliber that we are dealing with here tonight. So, first and foremost, our first guest, like I said, our show is entitled The Speaker MC Show. And tonight it's all about emotional eating. And emotional eating, what's the problem? How can we tell that it's emotional eating? You know, comfort yourself and all that, and how it shows up. And the holidays are floating around. We have Thanksgiving in what, 3 weeks or 2 weeks? Oh my gosh, today is the 7th. We have Thanksgiving in 2 weeks. So that's the other reason why we decided to explore this topic tonight. And our guests are going to offer some solutions. Our first guest for this evening is a speaker and the founder of Emerge. Are you feeling overwhelmed and tired of your life? Well, LaWanna will help you to emerge from your victim excuses and discover your dream to embracing what makes you special. Yes. Please put your hands together and meet Miss LaWanna Parker. Say hi, LaWanna.
Thank you. Thank you.
And our second guest is the co-founder of Hospitality Sprout. She's also a professionally trained cook. I'm an unprofessionally trained cook, but she's a professionally trained cook. And she has a seasoned experience as being a hospitality executive. She is also the co-founder of Hospitality Sprout, which is an industry collective cultivating fresh eat, drink, and design solutions. Please put your hands together and welcome Miss Samantha Starr Hunter. Samantha, welcome to the Speaker MC show. Yes. And I am your host, Marcia Chambers, speaker, consultant, online TV personality, and that's so forth and so forth. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, please stay towards the end of the show because we will be giving away some really good goodies, free offers. Our guest brought some free offers. And we have a special guest that decided to join us tonight, and her name is Christy. Hi, Christy. Say hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Welcome,
as I
Christy.
said, tonight we are talking about emotional eating. The topic of tonight's show is, you ate all of it? We want to explore what makes, well, first of all, how do you even recognize what emotional eating is? And how do you even recognize that someone is going through some tough times and using food as their friend? Usually the Speaker MC show is enlightened by some real life instance. And this show was very personal to me because the past couple of months I've been working on my project and I've been going through some stressful times. I don't know if anyone can relate to stressful and anxiety-ridden situations, but I started eating like 2 o'clock in the morning I'm munching on grapes and I'm munching on cheese. I'm drinking wine, which I just found out tonight was a bag of sugar. And all of this made me find 7 pounds. And I say find it because you know how people say, oh, you lost weight. Yeah, you lose it and then you find it back. So I want to release it entirely. But I know what brought it on. I was sedentary. I would get up at 6 in the morning and I would just start working. Maybe let me go have some coffee. So my eating habits were very bad. I would work until 2, 3 o'clock in the mornings. And this was constant because I was just working. But the food that I was ingesting or the things that I was ingesting, they weren't healthy. They were just something, oh my God, I feel like something. Oh, I feel like something. And that brought me to this topic. You ate all of it. So ladies and gentlemen, there are no gentlemen here. So ladies, for this topic tonight, this topic of emotional eating, how do you feel? Well, let me step back a little bit. Thanksgiving is around the corner. And there are a lot of people there's some people who like the holidays and some people who don't. And for those of us who gather with family and friends and we have all this spread of food, some people will go away with little bird droppings, so to speak, and say, oh, I've eaten, I'm going to eat that. But they'll eat here, then they'll go to another friend, and they'll eat there, then they'll go to somewhere else and they'll eat there. That may not be unhealthy, but what about the people who actually pile their plate and actually sit there until it's all gone? And even when they say, oh my gosh, I'm full, and they continue eating. Anybody want to comment on that? You know anybody like that? Sam?
Perhaps the question is, do you continue eating to continue the conversation? Does it appease the conversation, or do you need more fuel to keep on going? I don't know.
Well, okay. Let me premise this question with a conversation I had with a client of mine. He told me that on Thanksgiving and any kind of holiday, because he used to go to his mom's house on every Sunday, and he would actually pile his plate high with food, and he would have to sit there and eat it all. And I said, well, why do you do that? I said, aren't you full? He said, I get full halfway through, but I have to continue. Why? Because when he was younger, his mom used to tell him, you better eat it all or you're going to get a spanking. So this has grown with him. So how many other people are out there like that? Do you want to comment on just identifying what the emotional eating habits of people might be?
Well, I can say from when we were kids, because we didn't have much, and whatever my mother cooked, we better eat it. There was no ifs or buts about it. You don't waste the food because we didn't have it to waste. And so I grew up with that with me.
Mm-hmm.
It never bothered me as a young person. It wasn't until I lost my son. And then suddenly I started binge eating. That's when it was comfort.
Ah.
And it triggered the change, and that in turn triggered more eating. And before I knew it, one day I'm wearing a 10 and turned around and I was wearing a 22. It's just but like overnight. So different things causes people. For me, even though I grew up with that mentality of you better eat the food on your plate, it was the emotional situation that actually caused me to become a binge eater.
Mm. Samantha, you said something, do you eat to continue the conversation?
I think
you want to expound on that?
Yeah, I think that from the hospitality standpoint, I mean, really food and beverage kind of gives you a platform to continue a conversation or to let people linger a little bit longer. and really a platform or an excuse, let's say, to make memories happen, to have relationships, to have great conversations and experiences. So sometimes some of it might not be hungry, you just ate, but you're meeting a client, you're meeting a friend, you're continuing that. Because it's something to tie you together emotionally or to further the conversation.
There is some feedback going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I hear it too, coming from the other room.
I wish I could.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
stop.
It's gone now.
Yeah, it's gone.
Unfortunately, I couldn't stop that. That was the phone in the other room.
Okay. Sorry, Samantha, you were saying.
I think also, just a separate note is, from early roots, food and beverage. I grew up in the countryside, so everything was in German. That you're growing it, you're cooking it. It's always love, and that comes to the holiday season here. Is that food is used to kind of display sometimes love or emotions that people have trouble maybe speaking out front with. And so that I baked this bread that took hours and hours just for you because I knew it's your favorite. So I think there's some elements of emotion that's tied with food.
I think so as well. Christy, we're having some issues there?
Yeah. Can you guys see? That's okay. Go ahead.
A lot of emotion when people either are lonely, they have that binge eating, right? People get anxious, they have that binge eating. People get stressed. Sometimes when people are even in toxic relationships, you're in the hospitality medium there, Samantha, and you'll see these people sprawled out at the bars, just knocking it back. And well, you answer me this. I'm going to ask you this. So I heard that red wine is very healthy for you to drink. Wines or any alcoholic beverages, they contain a lot of sugar. Yes?
They're comprised with sugar that makes the alcohol. So the more sugar, the more alcohol level. However, it doesn't mean necessarily you're actually drinking all of that sugar, because in order for the yeast, in order to make alcohol, the yeast needs food, and the food is the sugar. So in the process of making wine, the yeast eats the sugar and therefore makes alcohol, and that's how you have a higher or lower content of alcohol.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so all these people who are sprawled out at the bars and they're knocking it back, they don't realize how much damage they're actually doing, not only to their liver, but also to the rest of their whole physical makeup.
Absolutely. Those are calories. They're not labeled yet. I think someday we'll hit that era that they are labeled, but you're drinking literally, I mean, if you're having a few beers, you're drinking your meal. That does really apply.
Wow.
And what about those beers that say it's, I don't know, they have a lot of vegan beers nowadays. Does that even matter? Does it really even calculate to, it's 0 calories? Is there any such thing as a 0 calorie beer? Like, really?
To my knowledge, I don't think so.
I've never seen one.
I'm sure the natural ones are better, even if it is more calories. So.
Oh my goodness. So these people who are going through this kind of stress, let's just call the whole thing stress. They're going through this stress and they're binge eating, as LaWanna had said, right? So they're binge eating and they're piling on all these calories because they're not burning it off in any other kind of way. Let's just stick with that kind of dysfunction. What do you think that it will eventually do to the body? So we see these people, they're either drinking their feelings or eating their feelings because they're all stressed out, or they don't know what to do, or whatever the reason is, or they're lonely. So what do you think that the final makeup is going to do to their whole body, their health, their liver, their knees, that kind of stuff? LaWanna, do you want to touch on that?
Well, one of the things they have to be concerned about is diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
Too much eating where you get overweight like that, you have to be concerned about that. And I know for a fact that my left knee, for example, bothers me. And when I mentioned it to my doctor, and he said, well, LaWanna, there's one way you can correct that. He said, just lose a few pounds. So at least other things that can cause you problems. You know, I never had any problems with my knees before, but I started having that problem when I put on those few extra pounds. And so anytime you overeat, you're going to create another situation. But diabetes worries me. I'm sure there are others, but that one really worries me. I've heard so many stories about people with diabetes.
But don't they say that diabetes has to be hereditary? That it's something that's in your no? Anybody can just get diabetes just like that?
That's from my understanding, because I thought it had to be hereditary too.
Wow.
You know?
Well,
type 1, I believe, is hereditary, and type 2 is based on like what you're bringing into your life, and therefore possibly weight is one of the largest factors.
Is that your kitty cat? Oh.
Speaking of tiger.
You were gonna say something, Christy?
oh yeah, I was gonna say that as Samantha was saying, some type of diabetes you can actually, it's not all the diabetes that are hereditary. Some of them is as a result of your lifestyle. We're talking about overeating. And in most cases, I'm going to use myself as an example. I was a fitness instructor for over 10 years.
Wow.
Before, I don't look it now, but I was, trust me. And I was good at it too. However, though, one of the things that I know oftentimes people don't think that eating and overweight, eating really can be addiction, a sort of addiction. And how do you really know that you're getting to be addicted when you're eating? And it's that time that you are eating, and even after you eat, you still feel like you're hungry, that you have to eat. It's almost like somebody who's taking some type of drug, and you don't really see it, but it's there. And so it's the same thing with eating. When you eat and you know you're full, but somehow you still feel like you are still hungry. That's when you start to really that's when you really have to pay attention to yourself. And what I know for me, I picked up some weight after I quit exercising. And I have to tell you that after some time you quit doing something about it, whether you're cutting down on your calorie, whether you're exercising, whatever you were doing to keep yourself fit, once you stop and you get to a point where you gain 10, 20, 25 pounds, 30 pounds, you no longer have, what should I say? You no longer have that mindset that you originally have when you were fit. And so the easiest thing for you is to kind of dumb yourself down, where you no longer want to do anything at all. And as a result, you find it easier and easier and easier to not do anything about. And I'm just going to use myself for example, because I used to be very fit, but when I stopped and started gaining weight, what I found that it became easier for me, easier and easier every day. And every day I'm saying I'm going to do something about it. But I've never really done something about it to the extent that I will get myself to where I used to be. And
well, hold on. You said that you're dumbing it down. When
I say dumbing it down, I mean, in a sense that I don't really want to do anything about it. Dumbing it down to the extent that it doesn't become a priority to me. And as a result, what's going on continues because I don't have the mindset any longer something about it because perhaps the weight has gotten so much and trying to contain it depresses that person that what's the point? What's the point of doing it?
Okay.
So what's the point of doing that? That's where I'm coming. And then you run into the danger, like LaWanna was saying, type 2 diabetes, which type 2 diabetes is not really
it's not really diabetes.
You're not inherited. For the most part, it's lifestyle. It comes most time from your lifestyle. And at the same time, I also know that it can be tamed. Just as you get it, it can also be tamed. So that's all I have to say on that one.
Well, in case you're just joining us, this is the Speaker MC show. And we have these lovely ladies here today as our guests, Samantha Hunter, Christy Iwichuko, and LaWanna Parker. And we're talking about you ate all of it, emotional eating. And we touched on some topics that emotional eating is brought about by loneliness, anxiety, being stressed in a toxic relationship, and it kind of leads to depression. Now, Christy has just touched on something that emotional eating can be an addictive type of, it could manifest as an addiction. And when that addiction sets in, it starts to take hold of you that you don't want to release the weight or you don't want to do anything about releasing the weight. So now you're going into this spiral of depression. Wow, that's deep. So the addiction, now the depression. You were trying to say something, Samantha?
I was just going to note because Christy had mentioned, it's hard to get back to where you were. And I think that sometimes as time passes and we all grow older and life changes and our priorities shift, we put a lot of pressure on our shoulders to become this memory of what we were, or maybe how we see each other, or ourselves, more importantly. And I think that as long as you're willing to take like a step towards a goal and you make a step forward, that's something to celebrate. And it's not about getting back to a memory of who you were, but who you are today and being proud of that.
I like that. I like that. LaWanna?
I'm just gonna say that in both cases they have touched on something because I can identify with what Christy was saying. I was one of those people who did exercises every single day, and once I got out of the habit of it, when I started binge eating, my justification for not losing the weight was, what difference does it make? I'm not looking for anybody. I already. that was my justification. So, I didn't worry about it. It's only, much later that I realized, well, it didn't matter whether I was looking for anyone or not. It wasn't healthy where I was at. But,
all about the vanity.
But by then, as Christy says, you lose the motivation to do anything about it. You settle in and you find one excuse after another. I'll do it tomorrow, or after I get to doing this, or when I finish that. It's always an excuse to put it off a little longer. And then you find you haven't done anything. And as Samantha said, you have to make a commitment.
Yeah.
Yes. You have to make a commitment. And I did lose 20 pounds this year.
Yay!
I did do that. And that was not easy, trust me.
Listen, you're speaking to the choir because I lost 25 and I put
all right.
7. Yeah, but I put back on 7, And it took me that long to lose the 25, and it took me that long to gain the 7.
That's right.
Go figure. And you might say, it's only 7 pounds, so what? No. It took me a while to get to that 25.
Yep.
So 7 is like 70.
Hmm. And you want to give up. You know, they say you shouldn't look at the scale every day, but you run in there and look at it anyway because you want to see that there's some movement. You know? And when you don't see the movement, you get frustrated and you think, oh, I'm wasting my time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So sad. But even speaking to that gentleman that I mentioned earlier, how his mom, and you touched on this too, LaWanna, that your upbringing kind of influences that binge eating mentality. So
Hmm.
for people who go through that, and I see women with young kids and they tell them, oh, you better eat all that food. So they don't really realize what they're doing, the damage that they're doing to this individual. So this individual is going to grow up to be like this gentleman, and he's just going to be stuffing his face whether he's full or not full, and not realizing that that's not healthy. That it
Hmm.
really is not healthy. So it manifests a whole lot of dysfunctions with our physical entity. So we mentioned diabetes, and we know cardiovascular, and we know that it can do stuff to the knees and to the back, all kind of aches and pains.
Hmm.
So what is one thing that you think, besides the upbringing, besides the other stuff that we mentioned, the loneliness, the anxiety, the stress, what else do you think could be another trigger to cause this emotional eating? What else could it
Oh,
be that just sets someone off to just continue eating like, oh my gosh, and not even realize you're really not hungry?
mhm.
I think one of the, and I think Samantha said that earlier, social environment. I think oftentimes when you are in a social environment, whether you are at work and you know how that goes, there's always potluck going on. And oftentimes it's just the way it is. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes you eating and you're not even hungry, but it's like you want to be part of the group to socialize and
Like
you
peer
want
pressure.
to be there. And the peer pressure is really huge,
Mm.
especially at work. And yes, nobody is really forcing you to eat. You can easily say no, but it's very often that you join the group. And even when you go to networking or you go to an event, that's another way that you eat when you're not really hungry. You go out to eat and no, yes, nobody is forcing you to eat, but it's a tendency to eat so that you can socialize with other people.
Does it
That's
make
a
you
huge,
socialize, or
yes.
does it actually relieve the discomfort of walking up to a stranger and introducing yourself?
Yeah,
Ah,
that's a big
I
one.
like
That
that
is
point.
absolutely a
I
big
like
one
that point.
because you may not be comfortable in the group. And when you're eating or drinking, whether it's eating or drinking, it makes it a lot easier for you to talk to that stranger, like Samantha was saying, or to mingle with the group. So that's
Mm.
another trigger.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then you
Yes.
go up to that person and you have broccoli all in your teeth, you know.
Oh gosh.
Party planners. They should give me a
Yes.
But
I was
that's so
talking to
true.
someone, and I think that happened to me because I kept, as I moved my tongue, I thought I felt something. Oh my God! I put my hand up there to make sure cover my mouth. But another thing that can cause it is a lack of self-worth. Sometimes when you're looking
Yes.
around at other people and you're thinking, I'm not as good as that person, I can't
Mhm.
do this like that person. And the more you start piling on yourself, you got to find some kind of outlet, and food is one of those outlets that you turn to.
Mm. What
Yeah.
about those people who say food is my friend?
Mm.
Mm. Yes,
Mm.
well,
no.
I tend to do that. I,
What,
I
the rate
tend to do
switch?
that. I love food. And Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year because that's the
Wow.
only time that I'll actually go in that kitchen and nobody has to ask me to, and I'll start cooking. And
Really?
I'll oh, and I'll just fix everything that my mind is thinking about. And and I thoroughly enjoy Thanksgiving dinner. Now I don't do that for the other holidays, and I
Wow.
like them just as well. But it's Thanksgiving that motivates me to walk into that kitchen and start cooking.
Wow.
And I enjoy Thanksgiving dinner, and sometimes I indulge.
So we touched on a few really, really poignant topics here. The fact that emotional eating can manifest into dysfunctions like diabetes and knee injury and cardiovascular, and how some of the addictive aspects of it. Oh, some of the addictive aspects. Hi, Gaelle.
Thanks, Gaelle.
Emotional eating, the social potluck, nervous to meet someone, and that social atmosphere, the social environment can also be a trigger, as well as the peer pressure, right? We touched on those aspects. And when you have no self-esteem and you're looking around and you're comparing yourself to everyone and thinking, oh, I'm not good enough, then that could also be another emotional trigger.
Absolutely. So, it's a big one.
It is. It is. And especially with, I shouldn't say that, because you have some men who suffer from a lack of self-esteem as well, like really low self-esteem. And
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tend to hide it a little more than.
I think, I was thinking, you brought up a good topic, because I've always thought that men in general, when it comes to confidence, that they have no problem with that. There is women who have problem with confidence, but you just touched on something that it's rarely talked about, that some men actually have problem with confidence. They have very low confidence. And because the society expects, or we assume, that men in general always have their ego, their pride, their confidence. I don't think we really touch about men and low confidence at all.
Men have some. You have some men. I'm not saying that all men. You have some men out there. It's like you have some women. A lot more women than men, I would find. But I'm not the expert. But you have some guys, and most of their confidence lies below the waist. But that's not.
Okay, we're gonna leave that alone for this segment, okay?
No. But that also affects their posture. It affects the way that they deal with someone else, because they're lacking that esteem, and they're lacking that confidence, knowing that, hey, you're worth it. Even guys who are very short, they have a lot of esteem issues as well. So you have men out there who do suffer from that, I'm not good enough, as well as women. Women tend to beat themselves up a little bit more, You were saying something, Sam?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a good point in the fact, like, male versus female, because I think more females tend to be a little bit more intuitive naturally, or like empathetic to people's feelings, and a little bit more emotional. And I think because of those natural abilities, we tend to be a little bit more of prone to it. Prone to using food or things.
The emotional
aspect of it, right?
Okay. All right. So since we have delved into the emotional eating, we've touched on how we recognize it. We've touched on some deep-seated issues and how it manifests. What can our guests bring to our audience on the SpeakerMC show to help them for this coming holiday? In 2 weeks, it's Thanksgiving, and then in about a month, it's Christmas, and then in about a month and a half, it's Valentine's, and Valentine's is chocolate.
Yes.
But what can we offer as far as tips, solutions, suggestions to help anyone who knows someone who's going through this, or if they're going through this themselves, and especially with the holidays pending so quickly? You want to start? Sam?
I was gonna say, kind of change up your routine. If you can like look at where your opportunities lie, and then maybe try to change your routine so you don't have that experience in front of you. If it's, hey, I always have to eat with someone at work versus, eating from the cafeteria or ordering out. But kind of change the routine of your normal flow, and maybe that might spark a new interest or at least some empowerment along the way.
Okay, I like that. All right, change your routine. Okay, Christy, you want to offer something?
I think that one of the ways about it is to be aware of what's going on. Because oftentimes we don't even think about it. But if you think about it ahead of time and know that this is really a problem, perhaps trying to eat before that time, eating things that will fill you up first before it's time for you to eat that dinner and filling up your plate. And I think that's a great way to do about it.
But wait a minute. What if you are the person who does the binge eating? You're trying to eat before you go, and then you can't stop eating.
Well, I think that if you, again, I go back to mindset, because I know, because I'm speaking from experience, that when you know that this is really a problem and you're trying to do something about it, one of the best ways that I have found is when I think about it and prepare my mind, this is really what's going to happen. This is the holiday eating is coming. And for me not to eat so much, I'll try to eat something prior to the main food when everybody's eating, so that I'm already halfway full with healthy, whether it's drinking water, whatever I have to do, so that I'm halfway full before even I go into eating.
Okay.
That will work well.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. LaWanna?
Yeah, I was just going to say drinking some water, which I should drink now because I got an itch in my throat. But drinking water, drink a good 8-ounce glass of water or more before you go out to eat, so that you're full when you get there. And that way you don't put as much on your plate. That sometimes works for me.
Okay.
I don't try it all the time because, as I say, I like food. But in those instances when I have tried it, it has worked. It built my stomach up. And if you have something like a fiber or something that will kind of expand in your stomach so that it doesn't leave room for adding too much more, that's an even better way to go.
Okay, I like that. You were going to say something, Samantha?
I was also going to just say, like, accept yourself of where you're at right now and where you want to go. And if you can kind of dig down to the root of what's urging you, sometimes, like, just to take a moment and dig down, maybe you come to a new recollection of, like, or awareness of, in that scenario, I'm now going to do something different than what I would normally do or not do. Does that make sense? I don't know.
No.
I would just say, like, the honesty, because I think a lot of people aren't honest with themselves. So if they can where they're at, right, and they're not happy where they're at, and what is the emotional trigger, or what is the core that's, like, making them react in that scenario to the food, then they can kind of, take it and break it down backwards a little bit and figure out, okay, well, how can I slightly change my mindset or my, my day-to-day activities, my routine, to make a difference, and not try to say, I need to lose 20 pounds, 50 pounds, and put so much pressure on themselves and say, like, every day is a new day.
Yeah, what you're saying is true, Samantha, and what happens sometimes when people they take a look at their size and they're not happy with it. And instead of doing what you said, because it does take commitment, you have to be committed if you want. I had told myself, okay, I think I could lose a pound to 2 pounds a month. And if I do more, that's great, but at least that much. And that's what I call myself trying to work on. But most of the time when we look at ourselves, we're not happy with what we see. And instead of trying to do something about it, we go to the refrigerator to make ourselves feel better. We'll pull out something and we start eating more, which only makes us that much more unhappy.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned about the refrigerator as well, because I know that sometimes you're not hungry and you're like, well, I'm up. Let's see what's in the fridge. You know, you just open the fridge and you stand.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, what am I going to do now? Yeah, so it's so funny you mentioned about that fridge. But
Yeah.
it takes a lot of commitment. It takes commitment to yourself. And this is a show about relationships, and it's how we relate to our food. Do we relate to our food in a positive manner, or do we relate to our food in a negative manner? And negatively, it shows up as some kind of an addiction, or some kind of stressful eating, or some kind of anxiety eating, but we're binging for the wrong reasons. And like Samantha says, you know, take it one day at a time. But as you echoed, LaWanna, it does take commitment. And I love what Christy said about thinking about it before you even go. You know, kind of plan and strategize. I really like these tips that you guys have offered here today. Me personally, I think that what I'd like to offer is if someone can do some kind of meditation. Now, ask me this maybe 15 years ago, meditation, I'd say, that's some airy, scary nonsense. Meditation has actually worked for me, because there's so many times when, even as an entrepreneur, you get so stressed out and you want to be creative, but nothing is coming to you. Some people will say, go take a nap. I'll just say, just clear your mind. Just think of nothing and zone out and trust and believe. You feel so re-energized. So I think that that's also one kind of step that people can also implement. Try meditating. Or even sleeping, if it means going and taking a nap, because you're definitely not going to eat while you're sleeping, you know? So,
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the meditation, and I've also heard that you can lose weight while you're sleeping. I don't understand how, but
really?
I've heard it. I've heard that works. So I guess my problem is I don't get enough sleep.
Well, you know, that's so funny, because when you don't get enough sleep, it does pack on the pounds. It really does. It really does. And I have one question for all of you. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why not go on a diet? Do diets really work, or do they do us a disservice? And you could just say a couple things on whether you feel about that, yes or no.
I think
No.
diet, instead of calling it a diet, rather it's a lifestyle change. Because I think oftentimes when we focus on diet, you focus on temporary, trying to reduce the amount of calorie intake that you have so that you can lose a certain pounds. But if you instead look at it as, I am going to walk maybe a mile twice or 3 times a week. I'm going to maybe, instead of having carbohydrates 2 or 3 times a day, I'm going to have it only 1. If you do those simple things, the weight will eventually come out, rather than saying, I'm going on a diet. And then you guys know women, we're good at this. We go on a diet every single year. You know, New Year is coming on, so almost every one of us is going on a diet at the beginning of the year. And by the first of maybe March, I mean, we already fizzled out.
No, what the reason a diet doesn't work, because as soon as you mention the word diet, you automatically start thinking food, and you hit to the refrigerator, or when you're in the store, you're looking at these things and you go, oh, well, I'll do it later, or I'll start next week. Uh, that word, for some reason, just automatically makes you think about food and what you're giving up. I agree with Christy. Cut down on what you're going to eat. Just say, you know what? Instead of filling my plate up, I'll only put so much in there, and I'm going to be happy with that. And tell yourself you're going to be happy and content with that. Not that, oh, I'm missing out on something. I don't have enough on there. It's those things that, to me, seem to make the situation worse. And I can testify to those because I've experienced all those things. So, you know.
And with diets, isn't the diet is like a more logical approach, because most diets, they say, okay, fill your plate 2/3 with greens and 1/3 protein and the other third with something else. And the logical approach, like you said, it makes you feel as if, oh, well, I'm missing out on something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then that also takes a certain level of commitment that you can do one day at a time, Samantha, but by the time the week is over, you're like, well, I really feel for some bread, or, you know, it just defeats the whole purpose. So even for an emotional eater, do you think that would work? A diet would work for them?
No, well, because if you're eating emotionally, then you already aren't allowing any restrictions. So by putting extra restrictions down, I think it just makes the problem worse. So I think it's a matter of your lifestyle and taking like small efforts here and there to change. And
one day at a time.
Realize that, you know, they look at themselves and they're so self-critical of themselves. And many people in the world are okay with their look or their being and so forth. And it's really ourselves being the most critical. And to kind of take that in consideration as well, I think it helps not to excuse it and let it go, but, you know, to make slow efforts of achievement.
Okay, I like that. And Gaelle knows everything that you guys have said. Gaelle says the word diet is automatically associated with lack, limitation. As Christy said, it's about changing your lifestyle, and ultimately it's not about limiting or depriving, but moderation. Thank you, Gaelle, for that. Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Goodness. This has been a very robust conversation. I do appreciate it, ladies. And it's at this time when I would like for each of you to take just a couple minutes to inform our audience of a little bit about your business, who you are, and how they can connect with you. And also that free offer that we mentioned at the beginning of the show. And I'll just start from right to left. And we'll go with Miss LaWanna Parker.
Whoa, number one. All right. I am an Aries after all. Listen, I'm a professional speaker, and I thoroughly enjoy giving speeches. And what I like to give speeches on is helping people to recognize that they don't have to accept what they think of as their limitations. So many times we think we can't do something, we're not as good as the next person. Wash that out of your head. My program that I created is Emerge, and what I try to help you do is to recognize that you have everything you need within yourselves. You just have to have the confidence to go ahead and pursue what you want. Take those steps. Don't sit back and make plans and do nothing about it, because then it's just a dream. It's not going to go anywhere. So part of my program is setting a goal and actually helping you walk through those and being accountable for the steps that you said you're going to take. If you don't do it, I need to know why you didn't do it. And it has to be a good reason, not just, I didn't have time. So for my program, I help you to come out of that shell. Sometimes we've self-imposed ourselves into little shells, and that's why I call it cracking the shell to your transformation. So if you contact me, if you want more information, you want to be involved with my program, go to my website, LaWannaGParker.com, fill out the little contact information there, and I will send you a 12-tip sheet on how to boost your confidence.
Ooh. LaWanna, would you mind just typing that in the chat box for me, please, so that I don't make any mistakes on your information? That's LaWanna at LaWannaSpeak.com and www.LaWannaGParker.com. And she is the founder of Emerge. Phone number 916-698-0839. If you miss it here, it will also be posted on our website at marciachambers.com.
Great, because I'm on this tablet and I can't figure out how to type it in on here.
Okay. No worries.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, LaWanna. And next to our other guest, Miss Samantha Starr Hunter, who is a professionally trained cook. Samantha, could you just tell us a little bit about Hospitality Sprout and how they can connect with you?
Well, I love food, and if you're tuning in tonight, I'm sure that you love food too. But more importantly, I love creating restaurants, bars, and anything food or beverage related, taking it from concept to development or turnaround, and basically making your food and beverage dream a reality. So I can lead you and follow you through the process and lead you through the process to opening a restaurant or spinning on operations. So I am a consultant with my team at Hospitality Sprout, and if you're needing guidance or some consultation, you can give us either a ring at 717-538-2216 or info@hospitalitysprout.com, and would give you a 30-minute consultation on where you want to go with your food and beverage entity.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much, Samantha. We thoroughly enjoyed you guys being here. And our guest, Christy, can you just tell our audience a little bit about who Christy Iwachuko is and how they can connect with you?
All right. I am Christy Iwachuko, Lady of Confidence. It's all about empowering women to own and rock their brilliance. And what do I really do? I support women to understand and embrace their genius so that they can thrive confidently in their chosen paths. I teach women to really go within, to tap into their inner power, even when they don't know that it does exist. And I hold a place for them to transform their fear into their greatness. And you can contact me to learn more about my workshops and other events that I have. You can contact me through Facebook at Lady Christy I. Again, it's Lady Christy I, or you can call 916-877-6169, 916-877-6169. And it really has been a pleasure being a part of your platform. Thank you all.
Oh, yes. I thoroughly enjoyed just conversing with you all. I learned so much. And, you know, the fact that I'm drinking all this sugar, that really stuck with me, and it's really pissing me off right now. I do love wine. But as I said, you know, thank you guys for being here, and thank you for making this moment so memorable. And this is the last show for 2016 on the SpeakerMC show. Yes, this is the last show for the year. We will resume on January 23rd, and that show is going to be Do I Know You? Yes. About influential networking and communication, effective communication. That's what that's going to be about. So I am your host, Marcia Chambers, of the SpeakerMC show and of Swell TV, SWELL TV. I'm also the co-host of Rebel Soul Show, which is a radio program on Red Hot Radio on Saturday mornings at 10 till 12 with DJ Tony Bennett and DJ Mackey. And my latest project, SWELL for Women, is sexual wellness and empowered living lifestyle for women, where we urge women to give themselves the permission to be sensual and sexy. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I so thank you guys for being here. Please join in on the conversation if you want to continue the conversation. We're on Facebook, and this is our Facebook group address. But you can also find us on the SpeakerMC, facebook.com/the SpeakerMC. And we really appreciate you spending some time with us here tonight, because you could have been anywhere else and you chose to be with us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And ladies, thank you so much for being here and making this.
Bye-bye.
Did you guys have a good time?
Thanks. Yes, we did, or at least I did.
Oh,
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate that. Been great.
Wow. Wait, we have Gaelle. Gaelle. Came in. Your picture just came in. Hi, Gaelle. Say hello to the ladies. Samantha, Christy, LaWanna, say hello to Gaelle.
Hi, Gaelle.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Oh, there she is. Oh, she's pretty.
Can you hear us, Gaelle? Oh, her audio isn't working. Oh, okay. But you can hear us. Oh, I'm here. Okay, well, it has been fun. I hear all of you. Thank you. Yes, thank you for joining us, and thank you for being here. So she can't speak.
Okay.
Yeah, but she can hear us. Yeah, that's what's going on. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is